While video games were invented in the US, many important game companies came from Japan like Nintendo, Sega, Konami, Taito, and more. If it weren't for some of these Japanese companies, we might not have video games today. Maybe we would have never recovered from the video game crash. I've talked about Japan from the perspective of an American, but what's the retro gaming scene like over there? Can you get better deals on video games if you go to Japan directly? We're gonna find out. What's going on? It's Poger coming at you with another video. We're going to be talking about retro gaming in Japan. We'll also go over our trip a little bit. If that sounds like fun to you, hit that subscribe button right there. Whatever you do, do not go to discord.poger.net. Terrible idea. You're going to have a little bit too much fun there. Okay, let's get started. While Japan is responsible for saving video games, they didn't invent them. For example, Atari was an American company. Their console, the Atari 2600, came out in the US first, although it was released in other regions like Europe and Japan. Unfortunately, Atari made some questionable decisions that led to their demise. Atari didn't have any quality control over what games were released on their console, so many inappropriate and low-quality games were flooding the market. This was one of the many things that led to the video game crash, where consumers no longer trusted video game companies. The video game market was completely doomed in the US, but a Japanese company would step in and save it. With the success of the Famicom, Nintendo wanted to release their console in the US, but they had to be careful. They redesigned the Famicom so it looked more like a VCR than a video game console. The cartridges looked much different from Famicom ones. They had to be bigger so that they could easily slide into the console without getting stuck. It also came with accessories like the zapper, which made the console look more like a toy. The whole point was to not call it a video game console because it had a bad stigma. When Super Mario Bros. Came out, it no longer mattered that it was a video game because it was just so dang good. And that's how Nintendo saved the video game market in the US. It's not just Nintendo that brought innovation to Japan though. Many well-known arcade games like Pac-Man by Namco, Space Invaders by Taito, and Frogger by Konami all came from Japan. Video games might not have been invented by Japan, but they certainly helped revolutionize it. Because I'm a retro gamer and some of my favorite game companies originated there, I've always had an interest in going to Japan. Because I took this semester off from school and my birthday was coming up, I decided this was the best time to make it happen. To make this video more useful, I'm going to give you tips and guidance should you ever want to plan your own trip to Japan. For the record, I completely went by myself. I don't know anyone in Tokyo, nor did I meet anyone when I got there. I think most people feel obligated to invite a second person when they go on vacation, but I think going alone has a ton of advantages. You don't have to share the trip with somebody, which means you can do whatever you want. Let's talk about planning first. I wrote down a bunch of activities that I wanted to do in a Word document. The list was not in any particular order, and I was going to do them at my own pace. Some people will have a tight schedule with timestamps so that they can squeeze out as much as possible from the trip, but I found this to be stressful and boring. By going at my own pace, I can spend extra time doing something in particular if I really enjoy it. Some things you will need timestamps for, like if you have tickets or reservations for something. I decided to stay within the Tokyo area and not venture off anywhere else. I thought about going to Osaka, but it would have eaten up too much time. Tokyo is already a gigantic city, so it's not like there isn't enough to do. For purchasing plane tickets, I used Google Flights, which gives you an easy interface to work with whether you're looking for the cheapest or fastest flight. I ended up going with American Airlines, who has a partnership with Japan Airlines, one of the best airlines I've ever used. Look at the food they give you. This was incredible, and I didn't even have to pay extra for it. The person sitting next to me actually complained about the food, which I thought was insane. The only thing I don't like about Japan Airlines is their website because it's super finicky. I had the hardest time pulling up my ticket, but thankfully you can just print it out at the airport. For phone service, I used Sakura Mobile just because of how easy it was. They offer an unlimited 5G data plan, and you can set a start and end date ahead of time. You can even activate the eSIM before your trip so that it's ready to go as soon as you land. My service worked without any issues whatsoever. This is not sponsored, by the way, I just happen to really like the service. Let's talk about transportation. I was originally going to rent a car, but I quickly learned that Tokyo's public transportation is one of the best in the world. To ride the trains and buses, I recommend the Suica card, which you can load money onto. This worked for literally every train and bus I used in Tokyo. You might hear about other cards and passes on the internet, but just keep it simple, get the Suica card. After riding the trains for a week, I can see why people love it. Even if you miss your train, there's always going to be a new one within 3 minutes. I stopped caring about being late because it wasn't a big deal. The only issue I had was finding where your train actually was located. There were arrows that pointed you in the right direction, but even then I would get lost. To give you an idea of how large Tokyo really is, every station I went to had a mini shopping mall inside. I was honestly blown away. Since we're talking about trains, this will be a perfect transition into Japanese culture. People generally don't make eye contact or smile at you when you walk by them. I'm used to people head nodding or saying hi in the US, but this rarely happens in Japan. But on the other hand, people are so polite. When I was on the train, people would make room for me when I wanted to sit. People were also fairly quiet during their ride and played on their phones. It was also common for people to sit close to each other. At one point, the train was unbelievably packed, but no one minded. Speaking of people, you might be worried about the language barrier. Do you actually need to know any Japanese to make it through Tokyo? No, you don't. You would be surprised at how much English the city has. Many signs are in both English and Japanese, and when on the train, you hear the announcements in Japanese first and then English second. There are some exceptions, but you can easily pull out your phone and translate any words or pictures. When going to restaurants, the kiosks are an easy way to avoid any interactions, and even if there isn't one, you can just point with your finger what you want to get. A lot of times when you buy something from the store or order something from a restaurant, it's common sense what you're trying to do. The only major language barrier I had was at the airport, but we just pulled out Google Translate and was able to get through it. Some people could easily tell that I'm not from Japan and immediately spoke to me in English. I just mentioned restaurants a few times, so let's talk about food. It was nerve-wracking walking into sit-down restaurants, ordering food, and sitting next to people that don't speak the same language as me, but like I covered before, it's not a big deal. At some places, I didn't know the etiquette, so I would look at my neighbors and learn from them. For example, that's how I learned that there's a water dispenser in front of me. At another restaurant, I didn't realize I had to scan a QR code to order food until I saw that my neighbor was doing it. I had pork ramen at a place called Batayama Abisu, and it was excellent. They give you huge portions. I went to a sushi bar in Asakusa, and it was literally the best sushi I ever had. I didn't expect it to be as good as it was. At a place called Toratetsu, I got the grilled chicken teriyaki rice bowl, and it was phenomenal. The portions were huge, and the customer service was excellent. When I dropped my chopsticks, the waiter replaced them within seconds. I heard that Japan has some of the best burgers in the world, which might sound surprising, so I went to Henry's Burger. It was definitely the best Wagyu burger I've ever had, mainly because of the sauce they use. I'm still biased towards Five Guys though. I also tried a bunch of fast food, and this was interesting. I tried the teriyaki chicken filet-o sandwich from McDonald's, which is not on the US menu, and it was very good. I also went there for breakfast and tried the teratama muffin, which is a sandwich that has a pork sausage patty covered in teriyaki sauce. The quality was definitely a bit better than what I'm used to in the US. The egg looked like a real egg, and the sandwich was better put together. The apple pie was crispier and much better tasting than the ones they serve in the US. Any guesses on where I got the spaghetti from? It's actually from Wendy's, or rather Wendy's First Kitchen. The truffle mozzarella baconator looks good, but the beef was dry and it didn't have much taste. The spaghetti was okay, but it also didn't have a lot of flavor. The matcha parfait, on the other hand, was phenomenal. Overall though, I was a bit disappointed with Wendy's. I tried Japanese Domino's with mixed results. The first time, I got the chicken teriyaki pizza with corn and mayonnaise, and it was delicious. The second time, I got the potato pizza with mayonnaise, and it tasted dry, almost like it was left out for a long time. I find this weird because it wasn't even done when I arrived at the location. The inconsistency reminded me of Domino's in the US, if I'm being honest. The interesting thing though is that they actually have milkshakes, and those were very good. Japanese Denny's is much different from the US version. You do everything through a tablet, including ordering your food, requesting your plates to be picked up, asking for dessert, and getting your bill. Instead of ordering a specific drink, you pay a one-time fee and you can use a drink bar. I actually like this system way better than the US. The food was shockingly delicious. I checked out a few Japanese exclusive chains like Most Burger, which has decent burgers and chicken sandwiches. Despite the fact that tipping does not exist in Japan, the customer service was surprisingly good. In the US, there's a huge emphasis on tipping, and it goes hand in hand with the customer service experience you might get. You may not always receive the best customer service at a restaurant, especially in fast food places, but in Japan, you're automatically given exceptional customer service even without tipping. Because of the language barrier, you might not expect to meet new people, but there's ways to get around this. I used the website meetup.com to go to English-speaking events, and this went surprisingly well. I ended up hanging out with some of them the day after, and we went to Enoshima. For those who don't know, this is an island that has a bunch of cool Japanese architecture. We also went hiking, which made me realize I'm out of shape. These are the types of things I look for in meetup groups, and for the person who invited me out to do this, if you're watching this, thank you. I also met someone for coffee through a different meetup app, and that was a really cool experience. I wanted to thank you as well. Out of sheer coincidence, I also had dinner with someone I met from a Discord server because we happened to vacation in Tokyo at the same time. Now let's talk about some of the places within Tokyo that are worth going to. Shibuya is basically like Times Square, but better. It's insane how packed the 7-lane crossing can get, and there's an endless amount of streets you can explore. This is where most of the activity is in Tokyo. I highly recommend checking out Asakusa, which has tons of restaurants and stores to check out, as well as old Japanese architecture. Even if you're not buying anything, it's still fun to walk around in a scenic environment full of people and browse various stores. Shimokitazawa is a small area with vintage clothing and thrift stores. I also wanted to apologize because I may be mispronouncing some of these names. There weren't a lot of people here, and it seemed like a ghost town. It looked nice aesthetically, but there wasn't much to do. I think the bad weather had some part in why I didn't enjoy it as much though. I went to a few observatories with mixed results. The Sky Tree is the highest point in the entire city, and you can get excellent pictures of the skyline here, but you do have to buy tickets ahead of time and it's completely indoors. I was looking for a place that was outside so I could get pictures of myself in front of the skyline. The Sky Lounge in Abisu is completely free, and you do get an excellent view of the city, but they don't allow tripods, and because it's indoors, there wasn't much natural light shining on my face. The Shibuya Sky Observatory is by far the best one I went to because it's completely outdoors. Unfortunately, they also don't allow tripods, and it was completely packed, which made it hard to get good pictures. If I had to pick a favorite location, it might be Akihabara, which has tons of electronic stores. Some places were more than 7 floors high, with a seemingly endless selection of electronics. I saw modern games, but I came across a huge selection of retro games. It was honestly amazing to see a bunch of Famicom games all in one place. Unlike the US, Nintendo allowed game companies to produce their own cartridge shells in Japan, which is why they had different designs. The prices on games were a mixed bag. Original Famicoms were 10,000 yen, or $63 USD, which is a good price, but not worth it because the console only supports RF and the controllers are hardwired. Many of the games were priced appropriately to reflect the rarity. Gimmick was priced at 147,000 yen, or $921, which is right around what it goes for online. Same thing with Euphoria, which is the game on the right of it. I almost bought Puyo Puyo, but it's not worth it for $66 USD. And what business does Ekrulila the Labyrinth's Revival have being $55 USD? No thanks. The largest store I went to was Trader Headquarter, where each floor was dedicated to a specific game company. For example, one floor was dedicated to Nintendo consoles, while another was dedicated to Sega consoles. The lineup of games was massive, with many Japanese exclusives that I didn't expect to see. While I wasn't interested in the original Famicom, I did end up purchasing an AV Famicom from a different game store. The AV Famicom is better because it supports composite output and the controllers are detachable. The price was $111 USD, which is right around what it goes for online. I could have bought it on eBay, but I wanted there to be a story behind my new purchase. The customer service actually impressed me. I was expecting them to simply ring me out and package up my new purchase, but the employee actually grabbed a TV and had me test out the console to make sure that it works. Unfortunately, I don't remember the name of the store, but it had a variety of electronics behind glass, both gaming and not gaming. What's nice about the Famicom over the NES is that it actually supports 3 extra sound channels. Not that many games utilize them, but some, like the Japanese version of Castlevania 3, sound way better than the North American version. Here's the game running on the AV Famicom that I just bought. In general, the console works great, but I already knew that because they had me test it out. If you're interested in buying retro games in Japan, you'll definitely see an amazing selection of games, better than anywhere else, but you're most likely not going to be getting better deals. Now that we have the internet, people are smart enough to know what products they have and will price them accordingly. While I had an amazing time in Japan, my planning was very poor. I didn't write down enough activities, and for the things I did jot down, I didn't go into enough detail. For example, I went to Ginza, but I didn't write down specific activities that I could do over there, so I ended up walking around endlessly without any plan. I also didn't consider the time zone differences, so when I bought tickets to an observatory, I accidentally signed up for the wrong day. I also wish that I went to more meetup groups considering how well they went. My aim for this video was to talk about retro games in Japan, but also give a guide on traveling there should you want to. I've mentioned Japan a lot in my videos, so I thought it would be cool to go over what it's like over there. It was a life-changing trip, and I would love to do it again. I know this video was different from my regular content, but I will be returning to normal videos after this. I just thought it would be cool to document my trip. If you made it this far in the video, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button right there. And have you ever been to Japan? Do you own any Japanese games? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.